Hello and welcome to episode number 80 of the Product Biz Podcast. My name is Monica Little and I'm super excited to be chatting with you today about SEO mistakes to avoid with Nina Gibson. So SEO is one of those tech-related parts of running a small business that a lot of creative small business owners keep a pretty big distance away from. This is all about website and words and settings and very specific on the tech side, which if you're a creative small business owner, you probably are. If you're listening to this, you know that this probably isn't the side of the brain that you like to use on a daily basis. But once you really start to learn what it is, how to implement it, and how important it is to your business, I guarantee you'll have a change of heart for this incredible tool that can help you get in front of more people and make the most of the content that you create and have on your website for the long run. Today's guest, Nina Gibson, shares her top tips on how to maximize your keyword SEO. So, how to find the right words to use for your product listings, for your product titles, what settings to adjust in Shopify for SEO benefits, what tools and apps to use to help you figure out what keywords you should use for SEO, and how to leverage blogs very strategically for informational SEO to get your website found for people who are searching questions where you provide the exact solution that they're looking for with your products. So if you have a website and you're trying to get more traffic to it, this is going to help you so much to understand what is SEO, how to use it, the top tips, the top mistakes to avoid, and Nina is just a genius in this space. A little bit about Nina. She is an SEO expert and visibility enthusiast with over 15 years of digital marketing experience. She's passionate about helping business owners elevate their visibility and their bottom line with smart and holistic SEO strategies. She's a corporate dropout, multiple six-figure business owner, and a mom living on the southern coast of Maine. So let's bring her on so you can learn all of the amazing insights that she has to share about SEO right now. Well, hello, Nina, and welcome to the Product Biz Podcast. I'm so excited to have you as a guest here today.
Hello. Yay. I'm so excited to chat with you. It's going to be so good.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. We're going to talk about SEO. I know this is a topic that is super important. I'm not extremely well versed in it, so I'm glad to have you, an expert who can share with us really what SEO is, any new trends in SEO, what's going on in the SEO world. But before we dive in, I would love for you just to introduce yourself, how you got to where you are today and what you do today.
Yeah, that's such a good. I love introducing myself, not in like a oh my gosh, but just it's fun to talk about like where you've come from and think about. So Nina Gibson, I'm an SEO expert and digital marketer, and I've been in the space for a long time, since 2009. And in 2014, I left my corporate job as an e-com director when I got pregnant with my first child, because I was like, I can't do the crazy corporate hustle and international travel, and went out on my own as a freelancer. And then in the last couple of years, I really pivoted to helping female-owned businesses, sort of master SEO, learn how to leverage it for their businesses, and really take advantage of what I like to call the best kept secret in online marketing. It really is. And here we are today. So yeah, that's me
Oh
in
my
a
gosh.
nutshell.
I love it. So tell me why you're passionate about SEO. I heard a little bit. It's the best kept secret, but
Mm.
why is SEO your jam?
I love SEO because it's foundational. It's
Mm.
foundational and every single business needs it, but especially product based, right? And everything that you're doing on your website, from, how you structure your navigation, to the products, like your naming conventions, to how you speak to your audience, can be informed by SEO. And I think that this is something people sometimes forget, is that it's a market research tool, it's a content marketing tool, it's a technical website, optimization tool. It's so multifaceted and so underutilized, because so many people are like, oh, it's blogging.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's one part of it, but it really has so much more to it than that. It's foundational for your marketing. And that's why I get just so like, I'm like, my hands are like going all over the place, because it's just one of those things that it can really be an actual like needle mover in your business. But it's kind of one of those things too, where it's a super male dominated space. There's a lot of gatekeeping, a lot of like techie jargon. And I think a lot of business owners just don't feel like it's accessible. So for me, I'm
Mm.
like, I want to make this information and this amazing foundational marketing tool accessible to as many business owners as possible. And that's really sort of, I think, where the passion comes from, is bringing it, to business owners and being like, we can do this. We can do amazing things for your brand using SEO.
Yeah, I love it. And I love hearing you explain that too, because I do feel like a lot of people are intimidated by SEO. And
Mm,
maybe it's because when you're a product business owner, especially if you're making the products yourself, you're super creative. So some of the very
mm.
tech stuff like SEO can seem super intimidating. So why don't we start with the basics of what is SEO? You gave us some ways of how it's used, but give us, like, for someone who's brand spanking new, who's never heard of SEO, how would you define it to them?
Yeah, so SEO stands for search engine optimization, and it's basically the art of making your website URLs more visible, more discoverable in the search engine results. So somebody types in a search query and your website pops up in the organic listings. And I this is my most favorite way to describe SEO. It's a bridge. SEO is the bridge that connects your website, your product, your offer, your website, whatever it is, with the person who's looking for exactly what you have to offer. And so
Mhm.
SEO bridges the gap between I am this person who has a need, right? You know, you're looking for a new skincare cream or a new candle or whatever. You have that. They type something in, all of the work that you've done for SEO, that bridges the gap between the two. And so I think
Mhm.
it's really important to think of it as a connector versus yes, there's technical, yes, there's this, but it really is a connector. It's how people can easily find what you have to offer.
Beautiful. And when you say connector, so it's mostly your website we're speaking about, right? If someone's searching
Mhm.
for something on Google, it's having some of these tactics we're going to dive into on your website, so then you show up in that way, right?
Exactly. And like different platforms now, there's a lot of talk of like Instagram SEO or TikTok SEO. And of course, Etsy, it's its own platform too. So that has its own way of serving up products for users. So those are sort of self contained. But my favorite thing about Etsy, and I think you and I have talked about this, is Google indexes Etsy listings, right? So you
Hmm.
kind of get like that double whammy. But yes, specific to your website, or if you have a YouTube channel, specific to that too, because that also gets indexed. But for today, yeah, we can keep it to just, websites.
Beautiful. I love it. Okay, cool. So when we think about SEO, and I love how you said it's bridging the gap, it's basically someone is searching for something on Google, and SEO is what allows your website or your answer to that question to pop up. Now, in
Hmm.
what ways do people actually make that happen? You mentioned blogs, and you also
Hmm.
mentioned it's more than that. So, how do we make that bridge happen so you actually show up when someone's searching for something in particular?
Yeah, it's such a good question. So building your SEO bridge starts first and foremost with keyword research. And I think that, where SEO is headed in 2024 and beyond, we can think of keyword research as like topic buckets, right? Really. So, like, understanding what are the people who are searching for what I have to offer using for keywords, right? What kind of language are they using? What kind of search queries are they using? And there are a few different ways that you can, I'm going to have to sneeze. I'm so sorry.
Bless you.
There are, there are a few different ways that you can find out. There are a few different ways that you can find what these keywords are, right? So Ubersuggest is a popular tool, keyword planner from Google, SEMrush. There are lots of different tools out there. One of my favorite ways, honestly, is to type something into Google just to start getting an idea of what are the auto suggest phrases that pop up, just to start, like, getting my brain moving. Like, what are people searching for? If you're only selling on Etsy, you can do that with Etsy, right? Type stuff
Mhm.
in. What is auto populating? What does Etsy think I'm searching for based on what I'm typing in? So that's the first thing. Keyword research. What are they searching for, and what keywords are they using to find it?
Mhm. So let me ask a quick question on that.
Yeah.
Once you have these keywords, so where do these keywords go? Are these
Yeah.
ideas for blogs? Are these keywords that should be in your product description on your homepage? Once you figure out what some of these words are, where do they go?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So, sort of the second part of building that bridge is okay, we know what keywords people are using. Now, like you said, we need to use them in the places that make the most sense and are strategic for Google. So, the first place that you're going to do that is like your website navigation links, or I refer to as like your global nav. So, a lot of times people will put like shop. and it will lead like all the way to their collections pages. We want to be using descriptive terms. So if you sell candles, it's going to be like, mason jar candles and mini candles, making sure that you're using keyword rich links in your global navigation, because they are the most important links on your website. And they are telling Google, this is what my website is about. And then from there, if you have a Shopify site, for example, on your collections page, you're going to want to use that target keyword. Let's say it's mason jar candles, like we just mentioned, as like the H1. And then you're going to want to use it a couple of times, if you have a copy blurb, whatever. And then in your product naming conventions, a lot of times I see product-based businesses and they'll name something like, purple violet velvet whatever, like I'm just making that up, but it's just like a really obscure name. And this is where that kind of, you have to sort of push the creativity aside a little bit and be pragmatic and be like, okay, this is, the purple diva mason jar candle, making sure that you're really being smart with how you're naming your products, because that matters, because then on your product page you're going to use like the keywords again, right? So whatever scent, let's say it's a vanilla candle scent, you're going to, vanilla mason jar candle, things like that. And then of course, like different keywords have different intent. So informational keywords, for example, are like, how do I fry an egg? Right? Or if you're a product-based business, it might be, how do I create a nighttime skincare routine for sensitive skin? So you would write a blog article about that, and that would be your target keyword, versus something like, retinol night cream is probably a commercial or transactional keyword, meaning commercial, they're mid-funnel, they know what they're looking for, but they're not sure who they want to buy it from, or transactional, they're like, I'm ready to buy. So thinking about, okay, what's the intent behind these terms? And keyword tools will tell you that, right? Like an Uber Suggest or SEMrush, and using those keywords appropriately for where the user is in their buyer journey.
Cool. Okay. So help me with this and I know you mentioned a couple of tools to use. So maybe this answer may be just like use the tools and start to figure it out. But when you talk about some of these descriptive words, specifically ones that you're saying should be on your navigation menu, should be the name of your product, in the name of your product, in the categories. So are those mostly just descriptive words? And how specific do you want to get? Because in the example of candles, you can have, like I think you said, mini candle, which you can have on your navigation menu, mini candles, and you can have the Purple Diva mini candle that you mentioned. But I'm assuming that there's probably a lot of mini candles if someone just goes to Google and types in mini candle. So one thing on Etsy, it's like with your keywords, your titles, your tags, be super specific on like the scent, the vessel, etc., because people may be searching for more specific items, but that's very particular to Etsy, because if someone's on Etsy, they know what they want. So what's your overall strategy with SEO and showing up on Google with how specific you want to be, how descriptive you want to be? Is it more general? Is it have some of the details on the actual product page? What's the balance there?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So I would think, when you're thinking about your site, let's say you're on Shopify or another e-com platform, your collections or category pages are your broader, right? So they're casting a wider net. So in the example that you just gave, mini candles would be the name of the collections page. And then when you drill down into the individual products, you want to get specific. So it's completely fine for the product name and like the title tag to be, Purple Diva 6-ounce mason jar candle with tin lid. I'm just making that up.
Right.
Yeah. The product page is where you get that specificity. And, there's I see a lot of product-based businesses have like, a few little things about the product, an image, and then like, a short FAQ, and that's it. The top converting product pages have about 1,000 words or more.
Ooh,
and if you're playing in like the Amazon space too, even more so. So like, it's really important. People want to know the information. So like and a lot of times people are like, I don't know what to say about it. Of course you do. Create a story about the product, right? You have a story about the product. This Purple Diva scent, is a combination of blah, blah, blah. Talk about where the oils are sourced. Talk about what other products it pairs really well with, right? If you have other candles that you sell, which scents go well together, all of those different types of things. People want the information. They want to know. So giving more information feels counterintuitive because a lot of people don't want to disrupt that buying, right? Funnel. add to cart right up there. People know what to do on a product page. So that's would be my number one recommendation. Such a good question. Be specific on the product page. Definitely. Don't hold back.
Yeah, and I love that tip of having 1,000 words on the product page, because with my skincare business, I mean, that's what I did. I had the brief description towards the top, right by the add to cart. But as soon as you got past the brief description, the photos, then I had a ton of details on the
Yeah.
benefits, the vitamins, the minerals, the antioxidants, the omegas, everything that was part of the product, every single ingredient. And one thing that I also did, which I would love to know, I think this is probably SEO, but maybe a more back end way of doing SEO and finding SEO. But I would look at a lot of the reviews or things that my customers said and use those words all throughout my product page. Because then when you actually have the language and the lingo of your customers of why they love it or why they bought it or how they use it, that's probably how some people are searching for that too, right?
Yeah, I think that that's really, really smart. You can absolutely use how people are providing feedback or reviews for your product to inform your keyword research, or like you did, just to create like that sense of you're in the right place, right? Even though like what you were doing is maybe not a direct SEO tactic, I think
Yeah.
it's creating relatability, and people are like, oh, she's using my language, right? So I think in that way, and then yeah, that translates to indirectly somebody's typing for something, they land on the page and they're like, ooh, this is where I need to be. Dwell time, which Google knows, right? So they're like, oh, this search really meets this landing page, and they're going to rank it higher. So like, yeah, I love that idea. It's crowd surfing, basically using your own information to improve your product pages and create relatability. So smart.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. I want to talk a little bit about some of the tools that you mentioned. I think you said one of them
Yeah.
was like Uber Suggest. So, just talk me through, because I've never used it and I'm sure people maybe listening haven't used it. So, how does it work? Do you go in there and type in candle and it tells you here are top keywords that people are searching and you kind of piece together? Or what's the flow of using a tool like that?
Yeah, I mean, it really is that simple and yet that complicated at the same time, right? So, like, candles is a super broad term. And so, but I always like to start broad and then narrow down from there. And the beauty of a keyword research tool is that when you put in broader topics, it's going to give you all different kinds of search results related to that, right? So, it's not just going to be candles, it's going to be all the different potential iterations. And you might be scrolling down, finding something, and be like, ooh, this has a decent amount of search volume and it's not super competitive. Add that to your list and then dive deeper into that term. Are there other keywords related to that one that's sort of mid-level competitive that I could target, etc.? So there's a methodology, and I think if you're doing it yourself, you just kind of have to start doing it and playing around with it and being like, ooh, this makes a lot of sense. I like to add qualifiers though. So like depending on what you're searching, like what you're trying to find information on, like adding qualifiers like tips or how or best or buy, things like that in front of it. So for example, buy candles, best candle, things like that, it will help give you additional keywords that you might not have otherwise found. So I always like to do that. And then really the process is just creating this big, big list, right? Narrowing it down based on what you're selling, what products you have, all of that, and then choosing the ones that make the most sense for your business.
Ooh, I love it. Okay. Now, when someone's doing this type of research, when should they do it? Is this something that best case scenario, it's like when you're building your website or maybe before you even name your products, this is when you do it. So when is best case scenario to do it? And then I think follow-up question is if someone has a website and it's already built, what's the process for them from that state?
Yeah. So best case scenario is, I personally, from a merchandising perspective, think SEO can be super powerful for naming your products, hands down. Sometimes it's not as necessary. Like a mason jar candle is a mason jar candle. We know people are going to search for that. But if you're in a different kind of space, I had a client or she's still my client, and she had still has a really successful Etsy store, but her Shopify site. And one of the things that she did really well before she and I even started working together, before we literally 10 times her traffic, and that's not an exaggeration, we did, but she had named her products with what each thing was. She didn't name them obscure things. It was, and so she already had a leg up. She didn't do that knowing, but when we went to go optimize and refine, it gave her an advantage. So before you name your products, if you're going to be selling off of Etsy, 100%. before you build your website, and nobody does this. Even enterprise level companies don't do this. They come to me after. They're like, "Can you SEO the site?" And I'm like, "No." Because you needed to have done it. I mean, for enterprise level, right? Like you needed to have done it beforehand. But if you're somebody who's like recently migrated to Shopify and you built it out yourself, or maybe you had a designer do it, there's lots of things that we can do. A lot of it just has to do with refining like your on page, like your heading tags, your title tag, your meta description. A lot of times Shopify websites don't have interlinking, so people don't realize that you have to link to other pages on your website from other pages to help Google understand what your website is about. And this is often overlooked because it's not something you would necessarily know to do. And that's one big thing. Like that's one tip that you can do right away. You don't have to hire anybody to do that. You can just start creating interlinking opportunities. If you have an app like also like you might also like or recommend it, that helps create some natural interlinking. So yeah, best case is before you've done anything. But if you already have a website, you can always go and optimize and refine and conduct one-on-one keyword mapping and all of the things.
Yeah, love it. Okay, cool. So a couple of themes I'm picking up from you is number one, the keyword research in terms of the name of your product, the naming convention, the titles, the navigation menu. Then what you also mentioned are some of these like intricacies specifically to Shopify or whatever platform, which is the interlinks and how you have things like configured, even I don't know what phrase you said, but what was the meta something?
Oh yeah, meta titles, meta
Yeah,
descriptions.
yeah,
Yep.
meta
Yep.
description. So that's how and that's physically adding words that you're telling Google to index you for. Is that what like a meta title and meta description is to some extent?
Yeah, so the meta description isn't a ranking factor, but it definitely
Okay.
helps with click throughs. It's like an elevator speech for your site. So, like, I'm a big fan of putting in some sort of value prop and CTA. So, it's that
Mm-hmm.
little blurb underneath an organic listing. So, if you're the number one brand for X, put that in there. If you are flipping over for holiday, put your Black Friday, Cyber Monday, like free shipping, whatever, BOGO, whatever it is that you're running. And of course, depending on how much time you have, that can be a big, undertaking and how many SKUs you have and all that. But that's where you kind of get people to be like, ooh, this is the result that I need. And then the title tag, that meta title, that's a ranking factor. And it's probably the most important on-page ranking factor. And that's the target keyword. And that's exactly what you said. This is the keyword that you want to rank for. And you're telling Google, hey, Google, this is what this page is about. And then, of course, the content that you create on that page and the headings you use and everything supports that target keyword.
Beautiful. Okay, love it. And then I think the other category which I want to touch on, I think you called it informational SEO. So this is more about the blogs and having content for questions that people are searching on Google. Because I think people can
Yes.
find you on Google in one of two ways. Either they're searching for a particular product and you're being ranked because you have all this set up, or they're typing in a certain question and one of your blog posts is being ranked. So now they find you and they read your blog post and then maybe they end up buying from you too, right? So talk to me a little
Exactly.
bit about informational SEO, because I'm assuming this is both the details that we just talked about in your product listing, but also blogs. But tell me more about what this all entails and how it works.
Yeah. So even for product-based businesses, establishing something called EAT is really, really important. It's a core component of Google's algorithm, and it stands for experience. Just had a total brain fart.
How do you spell it? EAT?
Oh my God. EEAT, experience. They just
Okay, hold on.
added the second E. Oh my God. I just did
Expertise,
a landing page on this. Oh,
authoritativeness, trustworthiness.
thank you. Expertise. Oh my
Okay.
God. Wow. I don't think I've ever had that happen. Um, so something called EAT, which is establishing experience, expertise, trust, and authority within Google. And they actually added the second E right after ChatGPT was released last year. And that was the experience E. So Google wants to see that you are an expert and an authority on the topics that you're writing about and that you have experience, right? So like if you're creating a travel blog, but you've never traveled anywhere and you're just writing about places, but you've never actually been there, at some point, Google is probably going to figure that out in your content, right? So they want to see that you're not only somebody who is trustworthy and has expertise, they want to see that experience. And when you, for example, with like your skincare brand, you can start writing about like how you're sourcing ingredients, or the importance of, organic, or the importance of this type of um, mineral in this type of product. I'm just making things up, but really starting to establish. And I think sometimes product-based businesses forget that there's a content marketing component to their business that can be super, super valuable, right? And like I have a former client, and she sells shower steamers, and one of her best pieces of content that drives so much traffic is, how do you use shower steamers?
Yeah.
So things like that we sometimes assume because we're selling products we don't need to do, but can be so valuable. And one of the best things to do, if you're like, okay, I don't want to write long form content, Nina, thank you, create a really robust FAQ page. What you did earlier, like crowdsourcing, like, is there a common question? Like, what are the 3 to 5 common questions that people are constantly asking about the products, right? Like, oh, can I use it with this? Or what would you create an FAQ page, right? And that's one of the easiest ways, because people, like you said, are searching for information or answers. And then gift guides is another really great way to be able to leverage long form content. And they can be evergreen, right? Like, you don't necessarily like gifts for X. Who's your persona, right? Who's your target audience, or who are your products made for? That's a gift guide that you can create that's evergreen, right? People are always going to be looking for gifts for that person or that persona, right? Regardless of the time of year. So yeah, content marketing can be just so, so valuable.
I love that gift guide idea of taking something that you can launch during the holidays and create a bunch of buzz, but not making it like Christmas gifts for him. You can just say gifts for him and have it live year round and
Exactly.
have it be applicable. I love it. But
Exactly.
yeah,
Or
the
you
the
can create
blog,
both.
yeah.
Yeah, you could create both. You could do a holiday one and just a separate one. And then you get like, because they're different search terms, right? So like chances are like Christmas gifts, whatever the keyword research supports, but then also you could create an evergreen one. So there's a lot of possibility there.
Yeah, I love it. And one thing that really helped me with plant-based beauty was the blog side of things. And I think I had some maybe more unique blogs that weren't really being answered, some of these questions. So I had a lot about cystic acne and really how to care for cystic acne in terms of like how to wash your face, what products to use, what products not to use. And I think that really helped on Google, but also I was creating Pinterest pins for all of these blog posts. And that was like the one Pinterest blog that actually took off out of the like hundreds of pins that I created. But I think it shows that the work that we're doing here is helpful for so many ways to get seen on Google. Then we can repurpose this long form content to create a Pinterest pin, slice it for Instagram content, slice it for your email newsletter that goes out. So I think it's just like such a great strategy overall of building your business and growing how you communicate and what you share and how you reach people through all these different
Yeah.
avenues.
100%. I call it legacy content, which is really just a sexy way of saying evergreen content. But yeah, it compounds and then you can repurpose it. And that's like the beautiful thing, is that you don't need to create all new things, right? And I think product-based businesses sometimes forget that they can do that too, right? That it's not just other types of businesses that can leverage that. And like that type of content marketing, that long form content marketing, it will work for your business for years. And that is the thing. Like you said, that one pin, right? That one pin, though, probably made a difference, right? And so I think that
For
this
years.
is
Yep.
for years, exactly. And so being able to identify those keywords that, people are going to be searching for skincare products from, 5 years from now. And so I love what you said, because the repurposing piece is, for me, like, you don't have to reinvent it every single time, right? Take this one piece of content and make it work really hard for you.
Yeah. And these tools that and apps that you recommended, do they also help with coming up with ideas for blog posts? So not only keywords for maybe your titles, but do they also show you ranking for certain questions that people are searching on Google too?
Yeah. So Ubersuggest does this. It's Neil Patel's tool, breaks it down by like questions, so you can see like how to's, things like that. SEMrush does the same thing. Neil Patel actually bought Answer the Public, which is that big spoken wheel where you can put things in. And so you can start to get an idea of what kind of questions people are asking, and then you can try to find keywords that support that. So yes, a lot of those tools help you sort of suss out the questions. Again, this is where you can use qualifiers, right? Like skincare tips, skincare how-to, skincare guides, skincare tutorials, skincare rituals, all those different types of things depending on your space. You can add qualifiers to like the broad category that your products are based around to help you find those types of questions and those informational keywords that make really epic pieces of content. And one of the things that I will say is, you know, most of the time, like that legacy content or those content pillars, those really juicy pieces of long form content that tend to do really well are how-tos, guides, or what is. So think about it like that, you know, like the ultimate nighttime skincare guide, you know, what is cystic acne and how can you cure it? You know, how to curate an AM, PM skincare routine in your 30s, all those different types of things. So when you're thinking about, okay, I know I want to create some really epic long form content, those three buckets tend to be the best performing. So how to, what is, and guides.
Yeah, I love it. And I think one thing to note too for other blog ideas is common questions that your customers ask you. I think that correlates with FAQs that you said.
Yes, the FAQ,
But one thing that I always did is if I got a question multiple times from different customers, I'm like, this has got to be a blog post.
Yes.
There's a question on how do I use this, or how often do I apply, or when do I apply this? I'm like, there's got to be an easier way for me to answer them. But also people are searching these questions and trying to figure out maybe in other ways how to use certain products or how to take care of certain types of skin too. But cool. I love it. Last thing I want to ask you is what are the top mistakes that people make with SEO? And I know we've probably touched on some of them, so maybe reiterate or if there's anything additional that you want to mention, but what are some of those mistakes businesses make?
Yeah. Number one is trying to rank every single page on your site for the same keyword. I see this a lot. So like, you know, using the candle example, like that's the only thing that you're trying to target across your entire site. Google knows that you're a candle site. You don't have to like beat that home, right? So like that's something that I see a lot of across industry. Number two is not utilizing page titles and like the descriptions, right? Just leaving those blank or letting them autofill. Like in Shopify in the collections page, it'll just auto pull from whatever text you have on the page and fill that in. And that's not what you want, right? You want to make sure that you have your target keyword and your description has a nice value prop or CTA. The third thing that I see is thinking 500 words is enough. It's not enough for long form content, you know? And I think that that's, I've definitely had my share of clients who get so excited. They're like, I wrote the blog post that you told me to, and they're like 500 words. I'm like, that's a blurb. And so really understanding that when you're creating content to rank in the eyes of Google, if you think about how many millions of pieces of content there are out there, right? There's half strategy, being strategic and picking the kind of keyword that you can realistically rank for. But the second hard part is, am I being helpful? Right? Is this useful? Is this providing value? And I think sometimes we tend to underestimate what exactly value and usefulness is. So that would be one of the big ones is, you know, if you think you've written enough, write another 1,000 words and then see where you're at. So those are sort of the three big ones that I see. And the fourth one I would say is just underestimating the power of it. And what it can do for your business. And it's, you know, every single SEO person has probably said this, but it really is a marathon. And I think it's tough because we live in like dopamine, like, you know, a dopamine world. I got this went viral or this. And if, you know, for newer business owners that are listening, I can guarantee that if you put in the work, it will pay off. Maybe not 6 months from now, maybe not even a year from now, but if you're in business for the long haul and you have a 5, 10, 15-year plan for how you want your business to grow, SEO will 100% help you get there.
I love it. Those are such good tips. And I especially love that last piece of advice of, yeah, we have to really look at our business from a point of view of not just what's going to get me an instant sale tomorrow. And I think so many people, and I myself have been susceptible to that too, of just wanting
Mhm.
that instant gratification. But if you're building a business with longevity and something that will last, it's all of these projects that just take time but come together
Mhm.
beautifully. And I think one thing to mention too is just specifically for something like SEO to work with someone who knows what they're
Mhm.
doing, like you, because there's so many intricacies that you've mentioned that I was like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't
Mhm.
know that had to be set up in a particular way. So, can you just tell us how you work with small businesses and how you help them specifically with SEO?
Yeah. So I work with small businesses in a couple of different ways. One is with a SEO VIP day, and it's specific for product based businesses. So it's called the Shopify SEO Sprint. And it's just doing all of the foundational things that you maybe haven't had time to do or you want to do, and getting your business in a place where you're like, okay, I've got the 101 in place, and now I'm going to move forward and do these other things, and you walk away with a plan and all of these fun things. And then I have a marketing mentorship 6-month program, which is a combination of done for you and just guiding you in terms of like your business. It's for service providers and for product based businesses. But the done for you component is the big one. We create a lot of content and we do a lot of keyword research and all of that kind of refinement. And it's a very sort of in depth, like marketing agency in your back pocket type of container. And it's a lot of fun because we get a lot done. So those are my two primary ways. And then I have a lot of other little things. I can include links, but that's those are the big ones.
Awesome. And where can people
Yeah.
find out more and where can they follow along and learn from you?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Nina Gibson Co. or on TikTok, which I'm stepping my toe into, Lazy Girl Marketing. That's my TikTok handle, which is kind of a little nod to something fun that's coming. And then at ninagibson.co, which is my website.
Love it. Okay, cool. I'll
Yeah.
make sure to link it. And thank you so much, Nina, for sharing your expertise and giving us all your knowledge about SEO. This has been such a fun conversation. So thank you for joining me here today.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.